Welcome to Hoardganize with professional organizer Rachel Seavey. Every Sunday at 6 p.m., Rachel shares her expertise and compassionate approach to help you deal with overwhelming clutter. Rachel?
Hey, collectors! Welcome to the Hoardganize Podcast. I'm your host, professional organizer Rachel Seavey, and this is our second episode in the Survivor series. If you missed a couple weeks ago, I did an episode where I discussed that sometimes when I'm in your home, I feel like I am on an episode of that show, Survivor. There's no running water, no electricity, isolation. And this week's episode, critters. Welcome to Critter Island. What is my definition of critters? Well, bugs and rodents mostly, silverfish, termites, cockroaches, giant spiders, tiny spiders, carpet beetles, bed bugs, ants, flies, fruit flies, moths, maggots. If it crawls or wiggles, then you might be living with it. Did I mention the rats, mice, possum, raccoons, pigeons, squirrels? Oh man, yeah, I've seen all of their destruction, and those nasty little critters poop and pee all over your stuff. Collectors, once you have an infestation, you have officially got yourself a hoardnado. You are no longer causing destruction alone. Now you have plenty of help. And they don't care about your stuff or what's important to you. They just want to eat it, nest in it, or use it as their little litter boxes. Your house has become a field mouse's dream. Okay? A home full of food and hiding places and lots of paper to shred up and nest. Was that important paperwork? Uh-oh. Are those your favorite slippers? Well, hey, now they're drenched in rat urine. If you leave your food out for 30 seconds and it's covered in fruit flies, yeah, you officially have yourself a hoardnado. So what do you do when you have a critter infestation? The clutter, the shame, everything is so overwhelming right now. Do you call the pest control company? Honestly, you probably don't want to let anybody inside of your home. And it might be easier for you to live with the critters than to deal with the shame of reaching out for help. Well, I've made this podcast specifically for you. I have 5 ways to get out of Critter Island. You can escape Critter Island. Tip number 1, remove all food in affected areas. This is something that I stress a lot on my podcast when I'm talking about bugs or rodents. This is really what they want. If there's no food for them, they will eventually leave. And maggots grow in rotten food. I've seen it time and time again. It looks like dried rice, but it's not. Fruit flies are about as obnoxious as they can get. A lot of people don't even know they have fruit flies or what they are. They're those tiny little flying bugs that are everywhere in your house. Well, they love your rotten food as well. And if you've got good food, you really want to secure it in the fridge or in a plastic bin with a lid on it so that critters can't get into the good food. I do not suggest using cardboard. You're basically creating a critter hotel with food and bedding if you put a bunch of food into cardboard boxes. Tip number 2. Call a pest control company. A lot of the times, they actually won't work in your home while it's all cluttered, and they're not going to help you throw away damaged goods. But what they will do is work on the outside of your home by setting traps or spraying. Some will close up obvious holes where critters are getting in. And I actually do suggest doing this even before you start cleaning up, but I do understand the embarrassment and shame that's associated with your situation. I do not recommend spraying Raid all over the place. This is poison, Raid, that bug killer spray. And you're breathing this in along with the dust and the feces from the bugs and it's really harmful, okay? There's usually not proper ventilation in your home and no fresh flowing air. So if you haven't opened your windows in years, you don't want to be blasting all of your stuff with Raid. The critters know how to get away from the Raid. They climb into the electrical sockets where you can't even reach it, and you're basically just poisoning yourself. I've seen people use Raid like they would use air freshener. And oh my gosh, it just drives me crazy. I swear my whole crew and I will go outside and get some fresh air because it's very, very dangerous to be breathing all of that in. Tip number 3, call an extreme cleaning company that cleans up critter damage. This is actually one of the things that my company, Collector Care, does. Basically, we go in to your home or garage or attic that's infested, and we help you salvage anything we can. We go through the debris, we see if there's anything that's good, any photographs, anything that is sentimental, and then we basically throw out the rest. It is not safe to donate. If there's been a severe infestation, you really don't want to pass that along to the donation centers, which usually are trying to help people that are on a budget. After the debris is removed, we thoroughly clean the areas. And I understand this is an expensive service. You could go on to Google and look for companies that do this if you're not in Northern California. It's not cheap, but I do have some tips that if you can't afford this service, you definitely want to start like we do by throwing away all the items that are damaged. And so rodents do like to track in all sorts of viruses. Sometimes it could just be, influenza. And if whatever is contaminated or drenched in urine or feces, if those items really aren't precious to you, you should really, really let them go. You don't want to be handling that stuff in the future without gloves and a mask, which I'll be covering later on in one of my other tips. But, honestly, collectors, if it isn't precious, it should go. And I don't even suggest recycling it. I've talked to my recycling center guys, and they do not want a bunch of cardboard or a bunch of cans that have rodent infestation, rodent damage on them. So you really just want to let it go. What your goal is to make enough room so that you can get rid of enough clutter in that area so that you can actually address the infestation with a professional. But do make sure that you wear thick protective gloves and a mask with a particulate filter when you're cleaning up. During the process, you're going to stir up dust, mold spores, rat urine and feces that's dried and now dusted up, and much, much more. I'll get into that a little bit more about the proper protection in a little while. Tip number 4, call a pest control company. This is something that you want to do once you've removed excessive amounts of clutter and the garbage and anything that's attracting the critters. Because the pest control company is going to want a clean environment so that they can come in and exterminate, seal up, and trap, or however they suggest getting rid of the critters, but they do need clean, clear access. I personally like the companies that use all natural products. I know there's some sort of orange spray, excuse me, out there. I'm not sure exactly what's the right situation or solution for you, but please do your research. Putting out a bunch of sticky traps is not doing your research. Spraying Raid all over the place is not doing your research. I don't know if you've ever stepped in a sticky trap, but it takes like a week to get that stuff off of the bottom of your shoe. It's incredible how sticky they are. And if you kick them over and they get stuck to things, it's a real pain in the neck. I don't know if you've ever heard the cries of a mouse trapped in one. Ooh, it just, honestly, collectors, it gives me the heebie-jeebies just thinking about this. I'll share a quick story with you. One time I saw a 95-year-old blind woman living very sick in bed, and all around her, the family had placed sticky traps for both rodents and cockroaches. She literally had to hear dying mice all day and night from her bed. And just that thought, honestly, has never left my memory. I really don't want you to end up like this when you're old. It's such a sad image. And honestly, collectors, if you don't handle your business now, that could be you in your 90s, hearing that scratching and screaming of dying mice next to your bedside. Tip number 5. If you have bugs, which I know you do, I suggest that you use an all-natural bug spray on your skin. Some of them use essential oils just to keep the bugs away. I know when I go into some of your homes, I'm left with welts and bites. And even if it's just like a flea infestation, I am just running for cortisone cream constantly. I do know that some essential oils such as peppermint, calendula, and lavender are natural bug repellents. And tea tree oil, of course. So please do your research. You don't have to cover yourself in poison. You absolutely can do something that's all natural so that you can protect yourself from getting bitten. Flies and fruit flies can be trapped using those sticky traps that hang in the air. Some of them you can find are stationary, and I like to place them actually like on top of the refrigerator. Seems to work really well right there. It really, really sucks if you get your hair stuck in one of those. I know, because some of you have them out like streamers everywhere, and my Mexican hair just gets caught every time. I walk by and I'm losing strands of hair on the spot. And sometimes the residue stays stuck in my hair for days. It's like a little sticky piece of gum, and I've actually had to cut it out. So good times, y'all. If you have long or unruly hair, I suggest a tight bun or a hat if you are hanging these things out everywhere. On a side note, collectors, I do think it's interesting that a lot of you don't know that you've been living with black widows. I hear people say, "Really? There's spiders here? I've never seen any spiders here." If you have a lot of stuff in your house, most likely you're living with a lot of spiders. Spiders love clutter. Giant spiders especially. And how can you actually see them when they're lurking in all of those hidden crevices of your hoard? Sometimes I start to think maybe you guys are immune to their bites. I don't know if this is because you're just used to it and your skin is now naturally adapted and gotten thicker. Something, when you adapt to a climate. I don't know if it's because you haven't showered in a long time and there's just like a lot of dead skin preventing you from feeling the pinch. But I just don't know why I always get bitten in your home and you don't. I just find this fascinating. It's like you're immune or you've got some sort of a protective layer. I just don't know how it's possible that you don't know that you're living with spiders and how you're not getting bitten. They don't bite you, but they leave me and my crew with itchy welts for days. It's really interesting. So I feel like there's got to be something scientific going on there, but I'm not sure what. So, if you are in an extreme situation where you have feces or sanitary napkins, you've been wiping yourself with toilet paper and then just kind of stashing it somewhere, adult diapers, children's diapers, any kind of pet feces, it's guaranteed that you have critters. They love these biohazard situations. In fact, I am convinced that there is a certain giant breed of spider that lives specifically in human feces. I know there's something scientific going on there too, just don't know what. So, as I mentioned before, I really want to stress that if you are cleaning up your critter damage yourself, please remember to wear protective gloves and a mask. You can wear protective eyewear. I tend to steam them up and it's hard for me to see. But anything that you can do to protect yourself from breathing in all of that stuff that you're stirring up or absorbing it into your skin, you're going to want to do it. You're going to want to wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water every time you handle anything with critter damage. You don't want to be just dusting rat poop off of a piece of paper and then later eating a sandwich without cleaning your hands in between. If you don't have running water or access to a sink, use hand sanitizer. It's really important that you don't ingest all of the toxic dust and particles that you're touching and stirring up. Some of your colds and respiratory issues might be due to the conditions you're living in. It's really important that you don't spread the contamination in your home into your body. This can get you really sick, and then you won't be able to declutter and have the life that you really want. Collectors, if you're listening to this podcast on YouTube, please show me some love and click that thumbs up button. Subscribe to my YouTube channel or leave a comment. I love to hear what you guys have to say. Until next time, collectors, and remember, happiness is a place between too little and too much.
This has been Hoardganize with Rachel Seavey. New episodes are available every Sunday at 6 p.m. and also on the Collector Care YouTube channel. Download Rachel's Affirmations for Collectors on iTunes or Amazon.com, or sign up for Rachel's blog at collectorcare.com and receive 7 tips for clutter-free living. Thanks for listening.